I am so grateful to have our amazing Congressman, Jimmy Panetta, here with me. I met Jimmy back in 2016, and I remember specifically, actually, the day that I met you. We were both campaigning at that time, and I think we were at the March, the annual kind of March Democratic fundraiser here in Santa Cruz. And I heard you were there, and I thought, oh my gosh, I have to meet him because I love your dad. I went to school, and he was my teacher for a while, and I felt really grateful. I just hold him in the highest esteem. And you are so, you're your own person, you're your own leader, but you just carry the legacy so beautifully.
I think, as you know, coming from a family who has dedicated themselves to public service, you appreciate that. It rubs off on you, not that they tell you to go into public service. I know that's not what your dad did, but it just kind of gets ingrained in you. And I was fortunate enough to, I admit that, to obviously have a family, not just my father, but my mother, who are dedicated to serving this area. And it makes it easy having a conversation with someone like you who understands what that's about, but also understands that at times, like you said, you got to get out from that shadow, and you got to work a little bit harder to do that at times. But I can tell you, though, that I can think of a lot worse shadows to be under than your father and my father and our family names going forward. And it's just, like I said, it's given me the inspiration to do what I got to do and basically learn from my family to give back to this country and community that is, I believe, given us so much opportunity, and make sure other people have the opportunity as well.
That's so well said. And thanks for bringing up your mom. And
Oh, yeah.
I totally agree.
But you know how it is. I mean, when you're in public service, it's a partnership. Yeah. It is a partnership. And that's really kind of what it takes going forward. So I'm lucky that, you know, my wife's a partner in this. She's a judge. So she has her career, and we have our two daughters. But when it comes to raising our daughters, when it comes to serving the public, it takes both of us.
So true, so true. I wonder if you want to just explain the position that you're serving in, to maybe just in case there's viewers who are watching that don't really know exactly, you know, what you do on behalf of our region.
I represent the Central Coast of California as the United States representative, so otherwise known as the Congressman from this area. The Central Coast of California, Congressional District 20, comprises of all of Monterey County, most of Santa Cruz County, going right up from the Monterey border all the way to just on top of UCSC, and then out over to Gilroy, so just a sliver of Santa Clara County, and then all of San Benito County. So it truly is the Central Coast of California. And I always tell, I actually introduced myself to my Democratic colleagues by saying, hello, my name is Jimmy Panetta. I represent the 20th Congressional District, the most beautiful district in the nation. And it's funny because I got a lot of boos and a lot of hisses. And my response to all of them was, well, I guess you've never been to the Central Coast of California. And a lot of them actually came up to me after and said, I remember one guy in particular, he's from Illinois, and he said, you know what? You're right. All I have is a botanical garden in my district. You're right. I've been to your district. It is the most beautiful. So it's definitely something that I like to brag about. But when you talked about legacy, you understand, I mean, we have a legacy to uphold here when it comes to serving the public, when it comes to protecting our environment, when it comes to making sure that our agriculture continues to remain the #1 bounty here. I mean, it is a lot of work. It's a diverse district in more ways than one, from the politics, as you know well, to the geography, to our economy, to the people. But man, that's what makes it great. And as I always say it, we got a lot of beauty, we got a lot of bounty, and it's a hell of a balance to have. But you know what? I love doing it because for me, as you know well, this is our home, man. This is what we grew up with. And so I love being able to say, I represent my home. I love that my two daughters basically go to the same public schools that I went to, play on the same sports fields that I went to. And I, you know, normally for them, I'd say, you know, for them, it'd be like, and me, I'd be like, yeah, and they go to the same library. I didn't go to. But they are, you know, it's home, and that's what makes it that much more better and fulfilling, to be honest with you, when you know that you're basically, one, upholding that legacy, but two, basically providing service to your friends, your neighbors, your family members of our home. So, and it's great that, you know, you can relate, you understand that. And that's why, sorry, I'm going on, but like I said, when it comes to representing this area in Washington, D.C., as difficult as it may be, as a lot of hard work as it may be, boy, is it worth it.
I feel the exact same way. I actually was at the U.S. Conference of Mayors, and I shared I was, you know, the mayor of Santa Cruz, and people came up to me and they were like, "We love Santa Cruz. What a cool town to be mayor of!" Like, it's, you know, we live in the best place. I feel so grateful. I actually took my daughter to play tennis the other day with the tennis coach who taught me in high school, and it's awesome, you know. And there is just such there's just such pride and ownership over this incredible, natural, beautiful location that we get to call home. And it's truly a gift, and we're lucky to have you up there representing it for us.
I think the constituents appreciate that. They feel how we feel, and I think they appreciate the fact that we're from here and that we have that empathy about what they're going through. I mean, you cannot just parachute into this district and think you're going to basically, you know, be able to serve people as best as you can. I truly believe that having the foundation that I do, I know that from having been raised here, having been educated here, having worked here, it does nothing but better make me a better servant for the people who are going through the same thing.
I was sort of thinking about when we met in March in 2016, and we were both like super, like brand new in terms of running the first time as a candidate. And definitely I anticipated, you know, 4 years under a different federal administration. We've been on the sidelines, right, in California, so we're not in the thick of it, but you are. And, you know, just reflecting on what you were thinking when you were running back then to where you are now in the past 4 years, you know, what are your thoughts on leadership right in this moment?
Let me just tell you, I mean, the thought of a new administration, especially one with Joe Biden and Kamala Harris, I can't stop smiling about that, because you're right. I came into this position and all I've ever known, unfortunately, is a Trump administration, a Trump-Pence administration. And so obviously it's been very difficult. It's been difficult for the whole country. And that's the thing. We have all been in this together, for better or for worse. And what I came to realize early on, though, is that, you know, no matter what this president does and what he says, and it's constant, is that you had to kind of go through a deciphering process of, here's another tweet. What exactly is it saying? Here's another executive order. What exactly is it saying? Here's another firing, or here's another hiring in the administration. Who is this? And so you had to do this whole basically determination process of, is this something that we have to spend our time on? Do we have to respond to this? If so, what's the level of response? If so, what then after that, then what's the level of legislation we have to make? Do we have to do a resolution? Do we have to say something? And so it was a whole process that we actually got very good. And I say we, me and my staff, are very good at dealing with. And it allowed us to basically, like I said, quickly decipher what's going on, but at the same time, always go forward. And that's what I tell people throughout this administration. Don't let him stop you from doing what you're doing. I had a dreamer talk to me the other day, and I said, look, continue to excel. Continue to do what you do in school, in work, continue to contribute, to stay here, contribute to our country like you're doing, our community like you're doing. Don't let this administration bring you down, and just keep on going forward. And that's how I've always looked at the job. As much crap comes out of this administration, and I mean that with the tweets and whatever. I mean, I don't know if you saw the New York Times Magazine this last Sunday, and it had literally all of his tweets plastered all over the front of it, of only about the election and vote by mail. And it was just like, I mean, hundreds of tweets. It's unbelievable. So it's constant, but you just got to be able to not get distracted. But like I said, you don't want to miss out. I mean, you want to punch back when you have to punch back, But in the meantime, you got to continue going forward, and you got to continue to serve the people of the Central Coast, continue to fight for our values here on the Central Coast. And fortunately, we've done that. We've done that, and we've continued to do that because that's exactly why I got into the job. I didn't get into this job to yell and to scream back at the administration. And I know that some people would love to, like, that's all they do. And some Congress members, trust me, that's all they do. But if I was their constituent, I'd be like, where the hell's your service for me? And so that's what I've realized is that, you know, yes, you can punch back, and we have punched back, and we've done that legislatively, and we voted on certain resolutions to punch back at this administration. But if you start getting too wrapped up and constantly getting distracted in what this president does, you're going to lose focus. And that focus needs to be on your constituents in the area you represent. And I believe that's what I've done. And you see that through the legislation, through what I've brought in here. We've continued to make sure that despite this president, we still serve people here on the Central Coast. Once again, it goes back to how I saw the job being done for 16 years growing up. Not that my parents talked to us about this. Like I said, they did everything they can to push us away from it. But I always saw outside of the house the effects that you can have on people's lives when you actually help them with something. And that's why I was speaking to a bunch of high schoolers. We had a York school, a debate at a high school yesterday, our forum. And I said, you know, public service is what it comes down to is helping one person at a time. It really is. That's the foundation of it. Yes, you can create some great policies, which is few and far between, and that's what ideally what you want. But in the meantime, it literally is one person at a time. And so we make sure that if someone comes to our office with an issue dealing with the federal government, they get help. An immigration issue, a veterans issue, an IRS issue, a Social Security issue. Our job is to help them get through that bureaucracy. I've learned this job that you are that bridge from the Central Coast to Washington, D.C. in that bureaucracy and back. And let me tell you, that's what people remember. And let me tell you, that's how you affect people's lives. I cannot stress this enough, because what people come up to me and make it a point to tell me is not about like the policy work or anything that, you know, former Congress members, including my father, did. They always talk about the service they received from their office on a personal issue that not just affected them, it affected their family, and it affected their family's future here in the district. And so this job, and why I ran, I'm sure why you ran, is because you can affect people's lives. And so that's what you have to make sure you're focused on, despite all this stuff going on at the national level, which we continue to deal with, but never lose focus as to why you're there at that national level. And that's your constituents. That's how I feel about it.
That's so well said. And, you know, it's really interesting because, you know, I feel what you describe, I hear is leadership at a level of resilience, right? I think that we have different times where you have to maintain, like my year as mayor was really challenging, right? But I have to maintain calm and integrity and service to our community and respect of my colleagues and do the best I can to be the leader that I want to be and the hardest of times and thrive in the best of times. So, you know, my hat's off to you for staying the course and really maintaining your North Star as you've had to weather this administration. And my hope is under the next administration, your leadership will just be able to thrive in a different way.
It's right. I mean, you, in your experience, you know exactly what I'm talking about. You can completely relate to it. And don't get, like I said, there's a lot of stuff coming at you, a lot of distraction, a lot of noise coming at you. And don't get me wrong, like you did, you got to punch back when you need to punch back. But at the same time, don't ever let it lose your focus on what's important. And that's what you did. And that's why you're there. I mean, that's, you know, you get it. And that's so important. So I appreciate your empathy.
I'm optimistic. I have such I love public service. I am fueled by giving back in this way. I have aspirations for just a lot of vision and better society. And I think when you're sort of drawn that way, it makes it easier to kind of just sort of ride through some of the mud that's being thrown a bit. You are too.
People always say you're so optimistic. My response is you have to be. To be in that position, you damn well better be. Because if you were just morose and you were just, like I said, yelling and screaming and angry, you're not going to get anything done. And I think despite this president, we've actually laid a pretty good foundation upon which we can get a lot done. And don't get me wrong, I think we've done a hell of a lot despite this administration. But man, if it's a Biden-Harris administration coming in, watch out. We're going to be working twice as hard and we're going to be delivering twice as much. I firmly believe that based on the understanding and based on where President Biden and Vice President Harris want to take this country and want to take our democracy. And I think that's so important to have people who understand, who have that foundational understanding of what it means to serve and what it means to serve the public, which I think they do, but also looking forward. What is your vision of the future? Where do you want to go and how do you want to get there? I mean, trust me, it's easy to get up there and say, I want to go here. It's a hell of a lot harder when you say, let's talk about the plan to get there. And unfortunately, you have a lot of people on both sides of the aisle who talk about these great ideas and these idealistic ideas, which are great. Don't get me wrong. Of course, we want to get there. But you know what? The real work comes and the success comes when you actually start talking about the steps you need to take to get there. And that's been an interesting thing to realize, in that there are a number of my colleagues who like to yell about some grand ideas or some slogans. I call it governing by slogan. And it's like, no, you got to govern by substance. And that's how you get things done. And so that's been interesting. And but like I said, I do believe that President Biden understands that. And so, so does Senator Harris. I had the fortunate opportunity to work with Senator Harris at the Alameda County District Attorney's Office, where we were both DDAs at the time. And, you know, it makes me proud that she's in that position. I think she's going to represent not just California well, not just Northern California well. I think she's going to represent the country well in that VP position, definitely.
Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah. I forgot about that connection. That's fantastic. You're so right. It is that pragmatic approach to leadership and recognizing, we hear it all the time. You promise things or you want this, but like, what does it take to do the work? It takes bringing people along with you. And it's about just ultimately doing the work. But so, you know,
yeah.
Yeah. So in terms of like what you hope to what would be your vision? What's your hopes in terms of how you want to continue to move forward the values of our region?
I admit, I'm not in the entertainment industry, okay? This job is not about me yelling and screaming and going on TV. I'm in the legislation industry, all right? That is my job. And so I need to make sure that when it's a Biden-Harris administration, and we've talked to my office about this, we're getting ready to go, because we want to make sure that we can put forward meaningful legislation that affects people here on the Central Coast. What does that entail? Well, the first thing is going to be another relief package, especially during this pandemic, okay? We need to be able to provide the relief necessary, just like we did back in April with the CARES Act, and seeing the benefits that were provided for so many people here on the Central Coast that we fought for, and seeing the millions and millions and millions of dollars that came in for our hospitals, for our schools, for our colleges, for state and local governments, for our healthcare clinics as well. We even got, I have a list here, you know, Dominican Hospital received 10 million, no, Dominican and Sutter Maternity received 10 million. Santa Cruz City for housing and homeless. Santa Cruz got 915,000 just through the CARES Act. Santa Cruz and Santa Cruz County got over 27 million, 28 million through CARES Act. And so there was a lot coming in, but man, this pandemic's not going away. I mean, we're you know, you hear what people are saying. This is halftime, if that. And people just don't know, especially with what's going on with the vaccine, and especially the lack of leadership that's been done at the national level when it comes to testing and contact tracing. And so we're in a situation right now where more needs to be done. You hear Federal Reserve Chairman Powell say, look, there are going to be tragic consequences if there's not another relief package. Why? We still got 11 million people who are out of work because of this pandemic. It's going to be a ripple effect if we're not helping those people who can't pay their bills, who can't pay rent, who can't pay make their car payments. And therefore, it's just going to be those landlords or those companies it's going to be a ripple effect, making it a lot harder for our economy to get back on its feet if we don't do something. Our government has the capacity now to do something. There are low interest rates in which we can provide this type of spending, which is exactly one of the main reasons why the Federal Reserve Chairman is saying, do it. we need to make sure there's another relief package. So one, it's another relief package. Two, it's making sure that we focus on something that is a long time coming, and that's the climate crisis. Now, you and I both know, having been raised here on the Central Coast, it is our obligation. I don't care if you're in public service or not. It's our responsibility to protect our environment. We get that. That's in our blood. That's how we grew up. We appreciate the beauty we have, and we've done everything we can. And there's been so many people before us that have set up these great parameters to protect the beauty that we have here. But you know what? Climate change, as we're seeing, especially recently, it's affecting us. It's affecting us with these wildfires. It's hotter, it's drier, making us way more vulnerable to these devastating fires. And so what can we do? First of all, this is not a binary choice. It's not about dealing with climate change or dealing with our forest. You can do both, and we must do both. And so that's why I authored and introduced the Climate Action Rebate Plan that actually cuts our carbon output by 100% by 2050. It uses fees, it takes those fees and then reinvests it in the communities that are hurting the most from climate change, research and development into cheaper and more accessible green energy, and then job transition for those who are coming out of the fossil fuel industry into the green economy. And then it's basically talking about making sure that we do something about the US Forest Service land that we have here. There is a lot of dead and drying fuels that are basically make us very vulnerable to these wildfires. We need to have a reasonable way to go in there and clear them out as best as we can, as reasonable as it is. We have to have reforestation projects as well to make sure that we replant after fires. And there's a big backlog right now, unfortunately, as you can imagine, because there's been a lot of fires and there's not that much money to do the reforestation. So I have legislation for that as well. And then hire more Forest Service personnel as well to enforce and prevent other fires. And at the same time, it's bolstering the protections that we have. And that means the very first piece of legislation that I had was to ban offshore oil drilling off the coast of California. And so I've done that, but then I've also made sure to put forward legislation to ban new oil and fracking on federal lands here on the Central Coast. Now I know there's a lot of measures, and I think all 3 out of the 4 counties, I think all 4 counties maybe have a measures to ban fracking in them. Those don't cover federal lands. My legislation does. And so we're going to continue to push that forward. Immigration reform. Boy, is it needed. As the grandson of immigrants, you can see behind me, those are all my Italian immigrant family members right there who came from Italy right there, as you guys know what that is, as I proudly display in my home office, of course. I understand how important it is to have a immigration system that works for people and upholds our values as a nation of immigrants. And so that's something that hasn't been done since Ronald Reagan, if you can believe that. And so that's something that I believe will be low-hanging fruit in a Biden-Harris administration. Now, we've already laid the foundation for what we can do. H.R. 6, the Dream and the Promise Act, to protect our dreamers, protect those who are recipients of temporary protected status. And then I've worked hard to basically put forward a bill called the Farm Workforce Modernization Act to make sure that people can continue to come here, who are working in agriculture, stay working in agriculture, provide them with a legal pathway and their family members to stay here, as well as housing, and then streamline the H-2A process to get more people here, because we know those who are working in agriculture, it's shrinking, they're aging, and we need more people to come here and contribute to our economy, our culture, and our community, who we are as a community, not just a country of immigrants, a community of immigrants. So I think that's also something we can focus on. And then basically it's closing the the gap, the wealth gap. I mean, unfortunately, these last 3.5 years, especially with the 2017 tax bill, that gap has only risen. And that 2017 tax bill is something that clearly benefited the upper echelon of our society. They got richer, people got poorer, and so we need to close that gap. And we can do that through a number of areas: education, healthcare, housing, making sure that we are able to adjust the tax code accordingly. Now, I'm on the Ways and Means Committee, and all tax issues come through Ways and Means Committee. Trust me, I've been learning a lot, but I look forward to being a part of something that will reverse the 2017 tax bill, look at expanding the earned income tax credit, expanding the child tax credit. And then when it comes to housing, I look forward to working on a bill that says that those of you that pay more than 1/3 of their income towards rent, which a lot of people in Santa Cruz and the Central Coast do, you should get a federal tax deduction back. You should not pay more than 1/3 of your income towards your housing. And so I think that's something we're going to work on and put forward as well. So there's a number of areas that I believe that with a Biden Harris administration, with a Democratic Congress, and depending on what the Senate is, I still think no matter what it is, there are areas that we can put forward that will actually have effect on people's lives through the policies that we need to do.
Jimmy, hearing you talk, we could probably spend a half hour on each of the topics that you brought up. I really want to thank you so much for spending this time with me this evening, for really sharing your journey and leadership, but also your vision and mainly your service to our community. I stand ready to partner and work with you. I think you really explained so well the various issues impacting our cities. What we see is that playing out right at the local level. And, we also, in terms of cities, have a role to play in terms of what we do as we can influence social mobility, or the decisions we make with land use, or how we're making our investments, or how we're thinking about our most vulnerable, but also in terms of our carbon emissions and what we're doing to create walkable communities and get people out of their cars and build resilient communities. So I share your vision. I stand ready to partner. I am here to support you as you represent us across this country. And I know it's a sacrifice for you and your family on a personal level, but it's a true gain for our region to have you there representing our city. So thank you so much for being here and sharing today.
Thank you. And I think you get it. You understand, and I know you feel it, and our constituents feel it, that now more than ever, government needs to work for people. I mean, we're going through so much right now, and there's so much unpredictability that I think through our service, we can provide them the stability that people deserve. And let me tell you, that is how we restore faith in people, in our government, to be honest with you. And I know that the people of Santa Cruz are so lucky to have someone like you who gets that and who's willing to sit down and grind through the work that's necessary to be done to provide that service, to make sure government works for your constituents. And so it takes one to know one. And I look forward to continuing to work with you in your partnership. And thanks for this opportunity to just come on and have a good conversation. This was fun. And trust me, I look forward to seeing you in person. Let's hope that that's sooner rather than later.
Thank you. Yeah, this was really fun. And I also look forward to seeing you hopefully in person too. So in the meantime, stay healthy and safe and enjoy your family, and thank you for your service, and good luck with the election. I know you're up again, but we're all kind of keeping our eye on the big federal election too. So thank you, Jimmy. Thank you so much.
Exactly. Thank you, Martine.
All right, I want to say thank you all so much for watching our show today. We had a really special guest here with us, our Congressman Jimmy Panetta, who spent a half hour just sharing his vision, his journey in leadership. I'm most grateful to have you participating and watching as well. Our next guest will be Adam Spickler. He is a first openly trans elected in California, and this happens to be LGBTQ History Month, and we're happy to celebrate that this month amongst one of our trailblazers here in Santa Cruz. So in the meantime, if you're interested in staying connected, just go ahead and visit the website at martinewatkins.com, and we'll see you next time.